Welcome back to the Ruby Tuesday. My name is Ruben, and this is my review for Ultraman Season 3 or Ultraman Final. It's the last in the three-part trilogy arc that we finally get, and we had to wait 3 years for Season 2, but thankfully, really not have to wait that long at all for the final part, which has 12 episodes, ranging from about 25 to 30 minutes apiece, that last one being 30. Did it finish it off well? Let's talk about it. Right at the beginning of Season 3, Sanjara agrees to help test out and develop a new suit better adapted to his changing powers, and he finds himself using it much sooner than planned. So here's an anime series that had mixed reactions when it first dropped, especially with the CG, 3D CG that they were using. I saw a lot of fans umming and ahhing about whether they actually wanted to go down this route. And then there were those people like the original, you know, watching the live action, and people are then again going, I don't like this, I don't like what they've done. Of course, there's a new generation that's come into it and gone, I don't even know what Ultraman is, and have been introduced to a really interesting story somewhat, but it's taken its time to get there. It is 100% very tried and tested storylines that we've had before, and you get that even in this season, especially when it comes to anime and these sort of fighting arcs where you have a person that is the underdog, or a superhero that is once again the underdog. You think they've got powers, they're the underdog because they come up against a baddie of some sort that is stronger than them, and they get beaten to a pulp, and then you realize that isn't even my ultimate power, and they progress to a level. And that's kind of what the formula that we go through here. That's not to say I didn't have a lot of fun. In fact, I actually think this is the best of the 3 seasons, even though it feels a little bit long in times, and when we get into the talking explanation, the dialogue is probably the weakest thing, especially in that English dubbing. Definitely watch it in the original if you can. There's some subtleties and nuance into the characters' motivations or the way they react to certain situations that just feels like it's better listening to the original language rather than listening to the English. Now, the English dubbing is great for, you know, with the voice actors, what they've done with it, but it's the dialogue that does let it down. It's often cheesy. It often doesn't make sense to how they're reacting or replying. So for me, the dialogue is the worst thing. However, when we get into the emotional bits of the characters where you actually are caring about what's happening to them, that is when I'm most invested in the action. And it does take a few episodes to get us back into this world of Ultraman, where we're seeing our characters, even though we have a group, you know, it's not just one Ultraman. There are various suits that humans have now been able to create with the help of alien technologies. And so there is this story of this arc of the big bad controlling everything, like playing chess, and the viewer don't really know what's going on. It's the same with the Ultraman. They're always on the back burner, 2 or 3 steps behind. And I guess that is frustrating to watch, but also keeps you watching because you want to know what's going on. And when it comes down to the action, I think they show a lot of it. There's not too much of that close action, you know, like in the Transformers movies where you can't see what's happening. I was very thankful for that. Now that we know the animation style, I think everybody is expecting the style to be the same. I have to say though, there were some beautiful animated action scenes that are done in a way that I was really appreciative of. If you watch the latest Dragon Ball series, when one of our characters goes Final Instinct, is it? It reminded me a little bit of that, and how they showcased the power of that. I thought it was a lot of fun. But still, even when our characters are in super duper power mode, you still feel like they're the underdog of those that they're fighting against. Always seem to be somewhat smarter and stronger, and, you know, a few steps ahead. And that works well. So we have a strained relationship right at the beginning because Shinjiro doesn't quite know if he's in control of his powers, and nobody quite trusts him, and that goes on for quite a few episodes until obviously things are revealed and we get into those heavier action scene moments, which I really appreciate. The latter few episodes, probably 9, 10, 11, 12, are very much action heavy. And then we have a reveal that I didn't see coming. I should have, but I was really pleasantly surprised as to where it went. Now, if you've seen the trailer, you'll know there's a kaiju type of creature, like a Zeton, and I liked that it wasn't the main focus of the story, or wasn't there a lot. You had to earn all these action sequences with the stories and new characters being introduced. I do think some fans or people will have an issue with one particular character arriving I don't. I thought it was a fun inclusion. I liked how this character was included. Whenever you get like a new character with powers of somewhat, because our team keeps growing with each season, you got to have that character work into their power group. If they haven't had the training, then they need to have the training. And so if you have them in fighting situations, then the story needs to revolve around them as if they haven't had training, and how do they deal with that. You can have instinct, but without certain circumstances meeting the requirements for you to be one of these characters that actually can survive a big fight like all these Ultramen go through, then that wouldn't be realistic if suddenly you become a ninja. So I liked how they included one of these new characters. I think it worked quite well. The score for me was excellent. I think it did a fantastic job at bringing us to the heightened sense of action and testimony to the moments of those characters feeling frustrated or scared. That kind of moments, the crescendo of the orchestra moments, the some of the score lent itself into building and building until the moment you got there, you're like, yeah, I'm feeling this. And so for the most part, when there's dialogue, it's just understated, but when we get into the action, it jumps up, and I think it complemented the animation style very well. So my I think my biggest drawback was some of the dialogue just didn't seem great at all. Some of it was written and I was like chuckling to myself. I mean, it's very cliche anime, so in that circumstance that's great, but I wasn't expecting every like Shakespeare language, but I was expecting a little bit more meat on the bones of the dialogue. So that's not what you get in here. The characters are very surface level. When it comes to the characters, they don't have a lot of depth. What you see is what those characters are generally, unless you're a main character and you have some background and depth, but even then that more correlates to you getting more power or leveling up somewhat, rather than having interesting depth and nuance to your character. That's not what this anime is. It's all about the Ultramen and their ethos, as what they believe and how they fight. That's a big theme this time round, about whether the Ultramen are actually good for the earth, or collateral damage, that kind of thing. It's that age-old Superman fighting a bad guy in the city, destroying skyscrapers. Is he the good guy, or is he causing more damage? There's a big kind of argument and story with that in it, and I thought that was an interesting play to keep you kind of asking questions, as well as what the locals are, the animated locals are asking that question. So I thought it was quite enjoyable. I felt the time go by quite quickly. Next thing I knew, I was in episode 6 and then 8, and then I'd finished it, and I thought, well, that was definitely not the case for previous seasons. Although I enjoyed them, I thought this one was better and finished on a high. Now, when it comes to that ending, I'm going to talk about that ending end credit scene now. So for now, I'm going to give it 4 Nicolas Cages out of 5.
And you got one.
If you don't want ending explained or kind of talking about stuff with that end credit scene, then you can jump off now. Thank you so much for joining me. So just when we said that was the final season, and we talked about how this was the final part of the trilogy, we get a clip suggesting that more could be coming. And I think that could be the case. I don't know that we won't get any more Ultraman. It's a very popular series for Netflix. It has a good audience behind it. Now, this story, probably on Earth, is done, that trilogy. But Netflix has sometimes done this when they've started a new arc for another animated series. So they completed the Dragon Prince, but then they gave us a new arc starting, a storyline. So this could be the case. They mentioned a few times in this series, particular season 3, where we've had aliens, especially the space aliens, where we were going to be allowed to join them. And I think that's probably, if they were going to go anyway, that's probably where they would go with the new. We would go space-wise, kind of Guardians of the Galaxy, go protecting the rest of the universe. There's a bit of conversation where they were talking about how Ultraman have destroyed much in the universe. I would love to see some of that story coming into play. So though this trilogy is done, we could easily have a different storyline or a new trilogy arc start. Let me know your thoughts. Where would you like it to go if it would continue in a different story? I think this one's done, but we could get more elsewhere, a new story. Thanks so much for watching, but most of all, until next time, remember, live long and Tuesday.